going to change the control arm on a 2005 Mustang GT.
Yay.
First step is you go ahead and jack the car up, put it up on jack stance.
Oh, let me check it out. See if you've already gotten... Oh, you already did it.
Make sure that you've got
Whoa.
the car in park and the parking brake on. And go ahead and put a piece of wood behind the rear tires to make sure that it's blocked.
Yep.
And go ahead and loosen the lug nuts before you jack the car up, so that, but don't take them off, so that they're loose enough so that you can take them off once the car is off the ground. Okay?
Now we're going to take the tire out.
So we're going to remove the tire. Let's go ahead and remove the tire. There we go. Let's put that.
How'd you get the lug nuts off? You already did it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's,
Let's
you
go ahead
guys
and put
are
the tire
fast.
under the car now.
It's fine.
Okay. Then we're going to go to step 2 in just a second.
Okay.
Okay, so step 2 is we're going to remove the steering knuckle pinch bolt that holds the ball joint to the steering knuckle. That's right down here. We're going to use a 15mm socket and an 18mm wrench on this end. We've already pried this one out for you so you can see what it looks like. That frees the ball joint assembly. Okay, so now we're removing the rear fasteners and the control arm. We're using a 21mm box end wrench, and here is the outer fastener. There's one just like that on the inside. It's mounted to this flange on the bottom, so you don't need to put a wrench down there, you just need to get it here. If this is sticky and really tight, you can throw some WD-40 on there, some silicone, and that'll free it up. This isn't too bad. It's a real clean chassis, so I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, we're removing the inner fastener on the upper control arm with a 21mm box wrench on the inside. Again, be careful you don't mash your knuckles, because it's a common thing. There we go.
Alright, so I'm going to be taking this bolt off on the steering gear mount, and so that way then I can pull it out 6 inches and get clearance to take this bolt out of the control arm.
Okay, just to recap, so in order to get the control arms off, you have to basically move the steering rack forward. You have to remove the 2 bolts that are underneath that mount the steering rack assembly to the frame. You got to be careful with those bolts, and basically the nuts are welded on the bottom, so you can only access them from the top. You're going to have to use an 18mm box end wrench on the far side, and you can use an 18mm socket on this side. What you want to do is you want to basically grab your cutting torch, or not your cutting torch, but your propane torch, and you're going to want to heat the nuts up so they expand. And also, and what's the reason that we want to expand that?
So that way then the Loctite isn't on the bolts and you can loosen them up easier.
Right. If you try to take them off without the Loctite loosened, you're going to be struggling. Okay, so you may not have to take the tie rod end off. We took the tie rod end off as the first result to see if we could avoid having to move the steering rack forward. It didn't give us enough clearance. So to remove the tie rod end from the steering assembly, never ever use one of these. Unless you plan on throwing that part out and replacing it with the new part. Show us the new part there, James.
The new part is this.
Okay, this is a new tie rod end, and basically a pickle fork on the tie rod end will completely shred and destroy all of this rubber. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to get one of these. You can rent these from an auto parts store, and it's a puller. And basically it'll separate this in a jiffy and you won't have to ruin your part.
Like we did.
So then the next thing you're going to want to do is just loosen the coupling nut on the steering shaft so that you can slide your steering assembly forward enough to where you can get the bolt out and you're not going to shred your boot, your steering boot. Okay? What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take the seat belt and tie up the steering wheel so that it doesn't move. So in case you slip off the spindle, you don't have to worry about readjusting that steering wheel and making everything match up. Okay, so then all you have to do then is just wiggle the control arm out and it'll drop on down out of place. You're going to have to move this forward, move the strut and the brake, watch the strut and the brake lines as you move it forward, and this will drop right out. And now we're going to go ahead and install the new one.
Alright, so now we're going to install our new GT500 control arm, and we'll show you that in a sec.
Okay, so we're going to put this in first. What you want to do is put this part in, put your pivot point in, and you'll just basically slide that forward like that, and then we're going to put the ball joint in place. Okay. Go ahead. Okay, so the ball joint basically attaches to the wheel. When you just pop it into place, and then there's a clamp under there. But basically what you got to be aware of is that when this fits through, you need to have these grooves in line so that you can put your bolt through. If you don't do that, it can ruin the bolt. It'll just wear out because they won't move. The easiest way to do that is to put a jack underneath your control arm, and it will lift up the ball joint right in the proper position so you can slide your bolt right through. Okay, when you remove the tie rod in, what you want to do is you want to first of all loosen the lock nut with a 21-inch socket or ratchet, and then you're going to want to mark the position of where that tie rod screwed into with some whiteout. Then you can count the number of turns that you backed out so that you can replace the new tie rod in just the same position.
Living